Hello, everyone. This is Matt Slade here with the very first episode of Matt Talks Geek and Makes Bad Art. So, we're going to be jumping in right here. I'm going to tell you how this is going to work. You're going to watch me draw some art, and I'm going to talk about geek stuff. And the stuff that I talk about is going to be very much related to whatever it is I'm drawing. As you can see here, anybody who knows anything about video games clearly knows that this is a Mortal Kombat ninja. And if you are already paying attention, you can see my color palette over here that I have already chosen. I am very likely drawing Scorpion because Scorpion is cool. So I'm going to jump right in here. Obviously, you know I'm going to be talking about Mortal Kombat at this point. So let's just get this started. Because, yes, I understand. Mortal Kombat is a bit of a dead horse at this point. Everybody's weighed in. It's been out for a couple of weeks now. Um, but being as this is my very first episode of this, I'm going to go into it one more time. So let's resurrect that horse just one last time. Humor me, if you will. And if you just want to watch me ink this penciling of Scorpion that I've got going here, and you don't really want to hear my opinion, you can always just, hit mute. All right, so let's dive right in. And I'm going to try to keep my thoughts about the movie short because I can honestly fill a video longer than the film itself on everything that I thought was bad about this movie. Oh yeah, I'm one of the haters. But I'm not going to do that. I am allotted about 30 minutes, so that's what I'm going to give you, or thereabouts. I'm really going to try to shave it down. Basically, I should probably preface this by saying this is not a spoiler-free review. So if you haven't seen the movie, and you do not want it spoiled, this is pretty much your last chance to either turn this off or mute it. Other than that, we're just going to dive right into it. All right, so Mortal Kombat. Give a little bit of history of the franchise. Came out in 1992 to arcades in America and, other places. I mean, it was arcades. Arcades were big. They were big in America. They were big in Japan. And one of the big games was Mortal Kombat. Why? It was different. Yes, we already had fighting games. That is true. But they didn't have fighting games that pushed this kind of envelope. Not fighting games that helped shape what is ultimately known as the ESRB. We got ratings on games now because of games like this, and of course, Night Trap. Um, it was just horrendously violent for the time, although looking back on it and thinking about the stuff that we have nowadays, it's kind of tame, the original one. But it did spawn a very big following that's still going on today, and this latest outing on HBO is not the first time they have attempted a movie. Now, the first movie came out in 1995, and if you're like me, you've got some nostalgia glasses on for that film. Um, and it's one of your childhood favorites. Uh, Obviously, part two, Annihilation, was not so great. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I've ever met a person that actually liked Annihilation, um, I probably repressed that memory. I don't think I've ever seen a movie so universally hated as Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Um, if you did like it, I mean, hit me up in the comments there. I would like to actually meet someone who admits that they enjoyed that film. So, moving on, that obviously ended the franchise there in its tracks. No third movies were made, although other things were made from it. We had a Saturday morning, um, cartoon, if you'll believe it. I think it came on USA right around the same time that the Highlander cartoon. Yes, you heard that right. The Highlander cartoon aired. And so, with that in mind, I mean, it was all right. And then there was some live action show that came on around the same time. I don't know. It was a very weird time because, like, every movie property and video game property had to have something else to go along with it, whether it was a video game going along with a movie going along with a video game, a rated R movie having a kids' toy line, um, and cartoon. It was just, I mean, it was just such a lawless land there. It's kind of crazy when you really think about everything um, about that. So, getting into the current Mortal Kombat movie, I'm just going to go play by play and tell you what I thought. First of all, the opening where it's Scorpion and Sub-Zero before they're actually Scorpion and Sub-Zero was awesome. Movie started out strong, and when I say strong, I mean it started out strong. I wanted to see that movie. The movie it's set up there. And I feel like I didn't get to actually see that movie. Some people will be like, but you did see that movie. You watched the whole film, right? Yeah, I watched the whole film. But I kind of want to see the movie that led to that event. Um, Essentially, Scorpion is enjoying life, obviously hiding out. And then, bam, while he's off getting water for his wife, Sub-Zero shows up. And he just massacres the place. And then Scorpion gets back to the house, obviously too late. His wife is horribly, horribly killed by being frozen to death. He doesn't even have time to grieve as the Lin Kuei are already there and they are bearing down on him. And we see him jump into action, fashioning a harpoon weapon out of some gardening tools and rope. And it was very obvious at that point. If you hadn't already figured out who you were looking at, you clearly knew at that point. Um, and like I said, I thought that was great. The action sequences were awesome. That was just classic, absolute classic um, martial arts film. But all good things must come to an end. Because after that, we flash forward to the future where we get to, or present day, I guess, technically, where we get introduced to the newcomer of the film, which is actually one of my points of contention with the film, is Cole. And let me tell you my biggest problem with Cole. One of my big problems with Cole, let me put it that way, is this franchise over the years that it has been producing video games, it has grown a roster of 97 characters. That is 97 people. Almost 100 people. Now, granted, they're not all good guys, but there's a huge portion of that almost 100-person list that they could have chosen to have been the main protagonist of this film. Instead, we got to sit through new guy McDumbface, Cole Young, who's supposed to be this great fighter, and yet he's actually pretty terrible. They set it up pretty early. Jax comes in. Oh, yeah, you took the title from Ed Tobias. Great nod to the creators, by the way. But beyond that, I don't really understand how he was supposed to be a good fighter. I mean, I understand where they got the name Ed Tobias from. I get that. But is this Ed Tobias in this universe like a terrible fighter? Was he like this universe's Glass Joe from from Mike Tyson's Punch Out? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I was not impressed. His first fight, you see, he gets overtaken pretty quickly, and he taps out, much to the dismay of his wife. So yeah, oh yeah. By the way, his wife's there, his family's there. We're supposed to care about them, I guess. I really don't though. And yeah, so flash forward a few scenes, and bam, here's Sub Zero. All right, actions again, right? Okay, yeah, that's cool and all, but one of the problems is he's got to run from him. Sub Zero is a formidable opponent, an assassin there, and he Jax shows up, obviously. Oh, get in the car, Cole, get in the car. That birthmark you got, it's not a birthmark, it's the mark of the champions. Honestly, I expected better from Mortal Kombat. Um, I don't know. I don't really know why. It's not like it's highbrow entertainment to begin with, but I did. I expected better, and I didn't get it. And um, here comes like the one big inconsistency with Cole. He quits at the cage fight between with a human. But he just watched a man conjure ice weapons essentially out of thin air, and he's like telling Jax, "Man, I can help you take this guy." And I'm just like, "Dude, you couldn't take a human. Why do you think? Oops. Why do you think you can take Sub Zero? This man has superpowers." But he does. He thinks he can take him. Jax convinces him to help his family get to safety before he is to go and find Sonya Blade. And this is actually the point where I realized what Cole's whole um, reason for existing is so that we can reintroduce all the characters and say their names out loud, which is actually just pretty irritating. I mean, other than one character, I know exactly who everyone was. I mean, I could tell, even though they totally butchered Reptile by making him just a big giant monitor lizard. Um, I could tell who Jax was. I could tell who Sonya was. I could tell who Kano was, by the way. Awesome part of the film. More on that later. I could tell who Melina was supposed to be, despite not having one stitch of pink on her. I could tell who Liu Kang and Kung Lao and even Raiden were. And even though his costume didn't actually match the game, I could tell who Shang Tsung was. But I mean, Shang Tsung's costume didn't match the game in the first movie either. So, who's really worried about that? But what got me is that the only one that got me was Rico. Honestly speaking, if they didn't call him by name, I would not have known that it was Rico. I wouldn't have a clue who it was supposed to be. He just looked like some dumb hammer wielding idiot. Not even a berserker, but like just an idiot with a hammer who is dumb and big and strong, and so he gets to swing the hammer at the good guys. Um, anyway, having said that, um, so we get to watch Sub Zero totally just massacre Jax's arms. There, he freezes them, and he just looks so damn brutal. And when you just think of that cold as ice feel going on there, it's like, oh my god, that had to have been probably the worst feeling in the world, having your flesh just flash frozen like that, and then bam, you don't have any arms anymore. Like, I don't know if there was any chance of saving them since they were frozen the way they were, but if there was, it was gone the second that Sub-Zero just snapped them off. Now that was pretty gruesome and pretty on brand with Mortal Kombat and what I expect from Mortal Kombat. But getting further in to the film, it just continues to deteriorate. First of all, it deteriorates right there in that scene because you have Sub Zero, who once again leaves the job without making sure it's finished. Now this guy is like a immortal assassin. I mean, at this point, he doesn't even go by Sub Zero. He doesn't even go by Bihan anymore, and he apparently speaks English now for some reason, and just introduces himself to the camera as Sub Zero, and it's just so forced, and I hate it. Um, More on that though, more on Sub Zero though that I'm disappointed about is he's again, like I said, he is this horrible assassin. Like he's supposed to be, feared, and yet he has this bad habit of making sure the job isn't done. If he had stuck around at the end of if he had stuck around, a little bit longer at the campsite, he might have actually found the baby that was hiding and would have ended Sub-Zero's bloodline. I mean, Scorpion's bloodline, like he was supposed to. Um, but he didn't. He did not make sure the job was done. And then with Jax, he's supposed to be taking out Earth's um, warriors. And again, with Jax, he did not do that. He left Jax for dead and did not make sure that the job was done. And to that point, it's kind of unbelievable that a assassin of his caliber would behave in such a manner. So what we have here now is Cole is he goes and he finds Sonya, um, and of course, since we have Cole here, who doesn't know what's going on, she gets to explain the tournament to him. And again, it just feels contrived and forced. Apparently, Sonya and Jax already ran into a warrior, and so they ended up having to kill him because he was super powered. He was tearing through their team, and that's when you find out that the only reason Jax has his mark, which is essentially his invitation into the tournament, is because he killed that person. Now, I kind of get it. I guess the magic is like, okay, well, if you killed a chosen champion, then you should probably be in Mortal Kombat as well. But the part I don't like about that is that the magic of this mark that is able to, change holders is that it doesn't seem to take into account the idea of a cheap shot, or anything that would actually, ooh, or anything that would give you an upper hand in the fight. So it's like, I feel like it's kind of a flawed system of I feel like it's kind of a flawed system of selecting your fighters. I feel like maybe if this magic is actually all powerful to be able to seek out people, then it should be able to seek out a whole new person and not just a person who got killed. Um, so there we also find Kano, and he is an absolute delight. Lovely, lovely banter. He just has no filter, doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. It's definitely Kano, but um, kind of hoping for a bit of a bloodthirsty Kano, but I didn't get a bloodthirsty Kano. I pretty much got Deadpool in Mortal Kombat, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Um, because we do get treated to him just absolutely letting into Sonya once he gets free of his bonds, and he reveals he knows where the Temple of Raiden is, and which, I mean, at this point, it's just kind of seeming like one of those bad sci-fi originals. And Sonya's like, "Oh man, can you help me? Show me to this temple." And he's like, "Yeah, get fucked." Um, so it's just really hilarious the way because he puts it to her like you chained me up, you stabbed me, and no, I'm not gonna help you. And of course he does end up helping her because she lies about having money to pay him. So is she really a good guy? And so they get on this plane, go to some undisclosed location, which is just in the middle of the desert, and that's when they are greeted by Liu Kang and Kung Lao, which are very obviously Liu Kang and Kung Lao. But since characters don't know them, we get to get introductions again. That's cool. Um, we meet Raiden there, who does a few things. One, he tells Cole about his lineage, and he is apparently Scorpion's ancestor, which descendant. I'm sorry, wrong word. Scorpion's descendant, which actually makes it even worse because not only are you like the worst fighter that you could possibly be in this film, to the point where I think Dan from Street Fighter could beat you, but you're supposed to be carrying on the bloodline of one of the best badasses that the entire franchise has. So with that being said, Raiden isn't much use in this movie either. He is constantly just talking. That's all he does. Talking more than I'm talking in this video right now. He puts up an electric fence to keep out Shang Tsung and his goons, and and that's cool. But he doesn't really do anything else. Um, More on that later. So we get introduced to the fact that these guys got to unlock their special moves. So I guess they didn't get the pre-order bonus by pre-ordering from GameStop because they still have to unlock their special moves, or as the film calls it, their Arcana. Um, and that's all cool and everything, and it kind of makes sense, Liu Kang's Arcana is his fireball, Kung Lao, he has his teleportations, um, and Kano gets his signature laser beam from his eye, which is pretty awesome. But in Jax, this is where I start really hating the Arcanas. You have this literal like, God, how do you even describe it? You have this literal uh, these tiny little arms. I mean, I think someone on the internet referred to them as little paper clips, and I can't stop thinking about that. It's pretty hilarious how pathetic they were. But later in the film, when he unlocks his Arcana, his body just like forms new, much better prosthetic arms. Now, I can't help but wonder what the hell would have been his Arcana had he not lost his arms. Does the Arcana change depending on your need? Or would he have just still grown um, prosthetic limbs out of his actual limbs? I mean, that would have been painful. Um, but I mean, in all honesty, I don't know. The film doesn't really, dive too much into that idea, so we're just kind of left to wonder. Um, So at some point, Cole decides because he's getting fed up with the fact that he can't unlock his Arcana. I don't know. I guess he got the cheap DLC. Maybe he didn't get season 2 pass. Who knows? Um, but he whines and complains enough that Raiden actually sends him home, and thank God too. So now he's with his family, and that's when Shang Tsung decides to attack. He uses Cabal, who is also a riot to listen to entice Kano into switching sides, which was kind of weird that Kano was even working with the good guys at all. So I was really glad for that development, if I'm being perfectly honest. And they go in there and they just start just whooping ass. It's just embarrassing, really. And so, of course, they're not just going to leave Cole out because he's still a potential threat to Shang Tsung because he wants to, cheat at Mortal Kombat and kill off all of his opposition before the actual tournament. Um, so we have Goro sent to his house, and Goro is, just, I mean, he is just mopping the floor with this new guy. He's already a bad fighter. Now he's up against, like, one of the badasses of the original game. And predictably so, he cannot take on Goro. And it's not until Goro threatens his actual family that he, yay, unlocks his Arcana. Because of course he does. So, having said that, he his Arcana is what's the best way to describe it? I would say his Arcana is Wakandan armor. You ever saw Black Panther? If you remember the the armor that T'Challa had, where if he got punched, it would kind of glow, and then he could release that armor. He could release that energy that was built up. Um, well, that was essentially Cole's Arcana. He was wrapped up in some weird metal, and every time Goro punched him, which was a lot because Cole was a terrible fighter, he he started to glow this weird light, and then next thing you know, he's just unleashing these badass moves on him. All of a sudden, Bad Fighter Boy is suddenly a Mary Sue, an absolute Mary Sue, to be exact, because he's suddenly able to beat Goro. Goro, of all people. It's embarrassing how easily he defeated him. So then, bam, he's automatically back in the game, and he's, trying to trying to help the good guys, but at this point, the outworld is in there, and they're kicking butt. Kung Lao dies, and then all of a sudden, after they suffer After they suffer a casualty, Raiden takes them to this safe place where Outworld can't follow. And I can't help but think, you couldn't have done that, I don't know, before you suffered casualties. I mean, you knew what Shang Tsung's plan was, and apparently he is to protect the Earth realm, but he cannot get directly involved. And it's like, well, then what good is your protection? Anyway, so they use Raiden as some kind of like a cheat code to split up the bad guys so they can take them on one by one, and all of a sudden they're able to fight them again. Now at this point, Sonya still doesn't even have an Arcana. I haven't even told you that because she can't unlock it because she doesn't have a logo. But she does go fight Kano, um, and she kills him, so she gets his Arcana, which I guess is pretty. I guess you kind of could say you saw that coming. Anyway, so having said that, um, I don't know. So now she's got her Arcana, which is those weird, rings or whatever those weird rings that she fires, which I mean didn't need an explanation in the video game, but they're apparently like acid rings or something in this in this movie because they just melt right through Melina. And at this point, we're seeing fatality after fatality. It's just a lot of fan service, and suddenly they get separated. Cole goes into a trap because Sub-Zero has Cole's family, and you end up with, of course, the big showdown between uh, with the big showdown between Cole and Sub-Zero. Not entirely certain why. Um, not entirely certain why Raiden didn't. I don't know. Zap everybody there. Forgot to do your eyes. But he didn't. Obviously, he's just really inept at his job. And the worst part of it all is, now we get to see Scorpion show up and fight, and it's like that's great and all, but I kind of feel cheap. I kind of feel like it's cheap because new guy Cole gets to fight alongside a long time day one character, and in the big deciding fight of the movie. Of course, Scorpion ends up beating Sub-Zero, obviously, and Cole's family survives because I guess they were going for some family entertainment on this. And then Raiden shows up, and it's like, good God, man, where were you? Shang Tsung shows up and says, blah blah blah, bad guy speech. And Raiden's like, yeah, we're gonna get new warriors for the Mortal Kombat tournament. Which, by the way, if you haven't figured out from what I'm talking about, if you haven't seen the movie, there is no tournament. The whole thing was Shang Tsung trying to stop the tournament, and it's like, so I have a Mortal Kombat movie here, but no Mortal Kombat tournament, and I just can't help but feel, I don't know, a little cheated by that. I don't know. It's the more I think about it, the more it pisses me off. Um, and then we get to the end of the movie here, essentially, um, where Cole is back at the old cage fighting thing, and the guy who runs it is like, "Oh man, what are you doing? You quitting?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm quitting. I'm going to Hollywood." And of course, the guy kind of mocks him, "What's in Hollywood?" And he just kind of laughs and walks off. And then that's when you get an image of the one character we didn't get in the whole damn film that we really wanted, and that was Johnny Cage. Um, and it's like, oh my God, you couldn't have, I don't know, given us him in the movie instead of Cole, because I feel like he would have been a much better character to, I don't know, for us to relate to, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like since Johnny Cage, exists, that would have been a more logical choice than making someone new. Like, I almost would have forgiven it if it had turned out that Cole was Johnny Cage. Like, he changed his name to Johnny Cage after the tournament and became a movie star. I kind of feel like I would have forgiven the new character if it turned out he indeed was not a new character, but he was. But he was indeed very much a new character, and frankly, I just didn't really care for him at all. So out of 5 stars, I would give it I would say 2 for the action and Kano, but everything else was absolute trash. Not gonna watch it again, and I'm probably not gonna watch the sequels. I'm not gonna watch the sequels. I'm really just kind of hoping that this one fizzles out so that we can get another attempt, and hopefully the next attempt will be better. So that's all I have for tonight. If you would like to hear my opinions again on any matter, I will be here weekly, and I will be drawing up a storm of whatever I'm talking about. So you guys have a good night, and I'll see you next time. Matt Slade out.